Alright, so this next episode is, I gotta admit, it's something that really kind of excited me and something that I really have to look forward to. And it also has something that I kind of have to rant about. And you think you know, and I think if you know me by now, it's not based off what happens in the actual episode, but with some other reviewers. But it's time to talk about an episode of something that, during my 30-day MLP challenge on Instagram, this was something I've been wanting for while I was waiting for the airing of Season 9. And this episode finally gave me that wish. So let's look at The Last Crusade. Very morbid title. So this episode begins as we see basically a young fool rushing over to Scootaloo's house, where the fool basically tells the cutie mark crusaders that they got his cutie mark. Yeah, so I really like how basically we see how used to the cutie mark crusaders are now pretty much done to do this at this point. And by the way, I should also mention at this point, while we're in Scootaloo's house, we actually leave our first canonical same-sex parents in this kids show. And this was another thing that I also asked for during my 30-day challenge. And while this pair was mentioned in comics, I haven't read the comics. But basically, while in Scootaloo's house, we meet her lesbian aunts, Aunt Holiday and Aunt Lofty.
You encouraged that coach to try new things. And because you all believed in him, he succeeded. I could use that kind of help.
Come on, Aunt Lofty. You already have your cutie mark.
A lot of good it does me. I can't decide what theme to give this quilt. I've run out of inspiration.
How about apples, puppies, cats, or cotton candy, or ballet? What about a wonderful quilt?
See? Leave it to you three to come up with more ideas than I've had in a year. Now that's talent.
Yeah. So I really like how supportive, Aunt Lofty and Aunt Holiday are. And it's nice to see how it just seems natural to have a same-sex couple in a kid's show. And given how this has become more mainstream nowadays, it's something I really got to admire the show, considering that it's 2023 and same-sex couples are not out of the ordinary. So I really do appreciate the show for doing it. But of course, according to the cuckoo clock, Aunt Holiday and Aunt Lofty have to head back home, and then we get this bit of interesting line, because one of the interesting things about the show that it never really addressed up until this point is, how has Scootaloo been living on her own? Many people in the fandom believe that she basically was just an orphan, but this episode clears up what exactly happens, what she does at home, and who is watching over her.
We better get going on this little train home. I left you plenty of healthy food for the weekend, and I left you cookies. The cakes will stay with you tonight. Then ready, and Rainbow Dash into this.
Yeah, so it's interesting to note that, because like I said, for the longest time, many people believed in the fandom that Scootaloo was a lot like Gallus, where she didn't have a home, and that essentially she was just an orphan. But I really like how this episode kind of addresses that there's kind of a set schedule whenever Aunt Holiday and Aunt Lofty aren't around, where it seems that the Cakes, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash basically spend time with Scootaloo. And I really like how it's interesting to know how that Rainbow Dash basically becomes a lot more part of Scootaloo's family. And it kind of makes that line that she said in parental guidance to Rainbow Dash all the more bittersweet. So when the ants go off for the holiday, a letter basically falls into the mailbox, and we get to the thing that everybody remembers about this episode.
They're coming home today! Ooh, my
What a miracle we have witnessed. After 9 seasons, we get to find out about Scootaloo's parents. This was honestly something that I had been waiting for. Literally, of the CMNC, in terms of family, Scootaloo was the one I knew the least about. And considering that at the time when I did that 30-day challenge, we already had 8 seasons of material with 1 season left, this was practically gift-wrapped to be an episode. So, kudos episode. We gotta get to that. So, after the theme, we basically cut to the school where Scootaloo gets completely distracted and because she can't wait to see her parents, which is also a detriment to her classes, but she can't help but be overly excited.
Why don't we hold off on the lesson until after lunch? How about show and tell? Does any pony have... And my parents are coming home to pony number 8!
Wait, they don't live here?
Nope. Their jobs are way too important for that. They travel to the farthest, most dangerous places in Equestria to study unknown plants and fierce creatures. And what they learn helps pony science and medicine. I'd go with them, but it's too dangerous.
Damn, so definitely it's safe to say that Scootaloo's got some pretty badass parents. I can't help but feel jealous.
My mom had to wing rest on the wyvern, and my dad got trapped in the Chimera's cave for 3 moons. We still have the scars to prove it.
You're making that up. No pony has that kind of job.
Oh yeah? And what have your parents done, basically, you self-righteous dickhead? Well, thankfully, basically, a freaking crocodile comes out of the blue and terrorizes the students, but then we get the epic entrance of Scootaloo's parents.
Easy there, marshmallow. Thought you were in your crate for your nap.
And that means now, mister. Mom! Dad! Still think she's making it all up?
I like how Apple English rubs it in. But yeah, so essentially Scootaloo's parents basically pretty much have the same job as Steve Irwin and essentially basically training wildlife. It is a pretty epic job given what we saw of them, and we do see the nice interaction of them hugging it out.
Every pony, meet my parents! Snapshutter and Maine Allgood.
Snapshutter and Maine Allgood. I don't know if their names are probably in reference of something, but it's really kind of nice to know. Somebody should actually get on to look it up. I would, but I don't have the time. But yeah, Scootaloo's parents, we definitely see where she kind of gets her traits. Considering her parents have a dangerous job, it basically shows that Scootaloo, well, up until the washouts, whenever she just stunts on her scooter, she basically goes at it with no fear. We see that she inherited her hair from her father, and obviously being a Pegasus from her mother. And they do seem like pretty down-to-earth parents. I'll get to that in a second because there's something I gotta rant about, like I said, not about this episode, but something that revolved around the fandom. So anyway, we see that Scootaloo catches up with her parents as they basically get to talking.
Christ! Nearly as tall as me now, Scoot.
Oh, come on, Dad. Oh, Scootaloo, we missed you. Me too, Mom. Did you get all my letters? And read them 20 times, but they're never as good as the real thing. It's so good to see you.
I say, we celebrate with ice cream sundaes. They don't have those in the jungle, that's for sure.
Why don't you all come? Our treat. And Princess Twilight said we're such good friendship tutors, she might even let us teach a class.
I'm going to ignore that last line, considering the subject matter of the show's literal worst episode in my book. But let's keep going, because there's something that this episode has to make me rant about, and let's just get right into it.
Good on you, Scoot.
What an honor. I can give you a tour of the school if you want. I mean,
Yeah, so basically Scootaloo's parents basically came up to let them know that they're taking on a new job that will allow them to be closer to Ponyville so they can actually spend a lot more time together. Which is why they basically came all the way out here.
Awesome! Oh, now it's Scootaloo! Woohoo!
We never planned to be away for so long in the first place.
Alright, with that line, it is time for me to finally let out some bit of stress. Prepare your butts for an incoming rant. Okay, so, in research of this episode and looking back of some other reviews, mainly the Voice of Reason's review because I can't find any other reliable reviews on this episode, from what I've heard, many bronies that have seen the episode and some analysts consider Scootaloo's parents to be absolutely horrible, and we'll probably get more into it in this episode. But basically, they think that Scootaloo's parents are the worst parents in existence because they basically left their daughter for a long duration of time. But the things that seem that some reviewers, mainly the Voice of Reason, basically keep glancing over was that line. That, number one, they basically, as they said just in the episode, Scootaloo sends them parents, and they do read the letters, and that one line, a lot of reviewers seem to forget. They didn't plan on staying there longer than they have to. And the reason why I bring this up is because, again, reviewers seem to glance over that one line and thinking that Scootaloo's parents are downright awful for leaving their daughter by themselves to basically continue thrill-seeking, even though Scootaloo made it very clear that basically they're not just thrill-seeking for an adventure, but trying to help out Equestria in science and medicine. Now, yes, while I will admit, admittedly, it is a little bit sketchy how they just continue to do this for their adventure, it is also for a good cause. And this is the thing that people tend to forget, is that I would not consider Scootaloo's parents the absolute worst, given how in other media, like for example, Timmy Turner's mom, who is around her child, but pretty much straight up ignores him 9 times out of 10. There's Nagisa's mom, who basically has an iron grip over his leg for one episode in Assassination's Classroom, which, might I add, is the worst episode of the show, because essentially it's Nagisa's mom being an inconsiderate bitch until the last 2 minutes. Queen Banshira in Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, who said that Olympias was a failure and to let him rob hunt in the Shadow Realm. Odelia Blight from the Owl House, who essentially basically used her own family for her own selfish desires. And then there's the asshole doctor from Full Metal Alchemist, who turns his daughter with her dog into a chimera. Or, God forbid, Raggio from Kill la Kill, who molests her daughter. So, when you stack Scootaloo's parents against those long lists, I don't think that just straight up leaving their child for adventures doesn't make them the absolute worst parents. And yes, while it would be nice to see them basically spend more time with Scootaloo and get to know her more, the fact of the matter is at the very least, it's not like that they are around her and straight up ignore her. They don't call her a failure. They don't try to mold them into their own image. They don't turn her into a chimera or, God forbid, try to molest her. So for those brony analysts who think Scootaloo's parents are the absolute worst, when we have other parents in media who are by far the absolute worst, all I have to say to you is...
So fucking what?
Okay, with that out of the way, mega rant over. I had to get that out of the way because a lot of people seem to criticize that for that part of this episode, but so far, the episode has been great, and I hate that absolute negativity when they just seem to freaking ignore other awful parents in other media. Alright, mega rant over. Back to the main episode. So basically what it boils down to is that Scootaloo's parents are basically they're basically getting a new job in, I don't remember the name of it, but basically it's Equestria's version of Sri Lanka. But in order for them to be closer to that, Scootaloo has to move with them, which means she has to move away from Ponyville and by extension, the Cutie Mark Crusaders. Here's...
Oh my! It'll be a big change for every pony, but it'll be a
Okay, so while I'm trying to calm myself down, I will need... So that's essentially why we have to title the episode The Last Crusade. And let's be honest, it is a very big change to basically move away from your friends and loved ones in order to be closer to family. Believe me, it's been about 2 years since little over 2.5 years since I moved from New York to New Jersey to be closer to family. And believe me, the whole process for me, it was a big change, and it was hard for me to digest everything. I basically had to accept it as it is because there was really nothing I could say at the time. I was only like 5 months into my job, so it's not like I had any way to kind of convince my mom from changing her mind otherwise. And considering that we were living in a big house that was too big for just 2 people, it made a lot of sense. So there's a lot to unpack there. So back to the episode, we see that through this background, we do see a lot of nice photos of the Cutie Mark Crusaders of all the help they were given. We do see them basically tear up over the fact that Scootaloo must move away and hold their last Cutie Mark Crusaders meeting. Okay, and this, I will admit, leads to kind of one of the consistent issues with this episode, rather one of the big plot holes. If they were really going to go through with this to have Scootaloo move away with her parents, why exactly can't the CMNC find other members of the Cutie Mark Crusaders? They already have Gabby as an honorary member, and they have Babseed, he's Apple Bloom's cousin from Season 3, basically be the head of the Cutie Mark Crusaders in Manhattan. So why exactly can't they have Babs basically come in to basically take over Scootaloo's position? Yeah, I have heard rumors that Babs' voice actress, from what I heard, she retired after Season 3. But considering what they just did with King Sombra to replace his voice actor, why couldn't they just do the same with Babseed? So that's really one of the critiques that I will have to give this episode, is that we know that the Cutie Mark Crusaders have other members in the 9 seasons, so why couldn't they have Babseed or literally anyone in the Cutie Mark Crusaders kind of step in? But that's basically kind of a bit of a plot hole that I had to get out of the way. So they basically try to come up with plans to try to figure out what to do, and when Rainbow Dash comes in, Scootaloo fills her in about what's going on.
But I can't go. Her parents are making her move super far away from Ponyville. What? No way. Scootaloo belongs here. And now we'll probably never see her again. It's hopeless. Whoa. I cannot believe you're giving up so easily. You're the Cutie Mark Crusaders. Solving tough problems is what you do. We are pretty good at coming up with ideas.
Well marks for efforts, I beg to differ, but the point still stands.
That's right. When we work together, we're unstoppable. I can't believe we didn't think of it before. It's less time, y'all.
So basically they try to come up with some plans to essentially try to basically get Scootaloo's parents to change their minds, and let's just say that the first plan, they try to be some make-believe creature.
So the plan is, we let them get a picture, then we hide again, right? Now the plan is right!
Yeah, so we see that their first plan is not exactly the best fit, considering that, well, they're explorers and they have to tame the dangerous creatures. But of course, as we know, the plan backfires.
Guess you solved the mystery. We'd better get back. There's a lot to get ready before the house goes up for sale tomorrow.
So then they try another plan to essentially try to make up some photos to see why Scootaloo should basically why Scootaloo should say to her dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. We're sending them to the Pony Book of Records. We're the only 3 ponies in Equestria with the same cutie mark. The chances of that are so rare. It means that we belong together forever.
Yeah, but you don't have the same cutie mark.
Sure we do. Look.
Well, this part is the same, but the picture inside means you'll stay best friends no matter where you go, and that's really special.
But how do you argue with that?
Yeah, so this kind of leads to another thing with this episode that I will admit it does get a little bit annoying, especially considering this is her parents, but Scootaloo's parents being oblivious to how their child would behave. Now, I want to make the argument that because they aren't around her as much, so they don't really know her all that well. Yes, they do read the letters from time to time, but they aren't basically emotionally aware of how these changes are affecting her. They're not asking her how she feels and what she is going through. And yes, while it is kind of annoying throughout the second half of the episode, keep in mind, and I'm going to keep harping on this, at the very least, it's not like that they are around and they just straight up ignore her. They aren't calling her a failure. They're not trying to mold her into an image. They're not transforming her into a chimera or, God forbid, trying to molest her. So, I'm just going to keep harping on that fact. And yes, while it is annoying to seeing Scootaloo's parents not realize how they're not taking their child's emotions into account, it does get a bit annoying at first, but at the very least, it's not any of those awful things. So anyways, the Cutie Mark Crusaders try one last-ditch attempt after basically trying to get a potion from Zecora to keep them linked together, which ultimately doesn't end up anywhere. They try to do what the hippies do, but it ultimately doesn't go anywhere.
Fun with your friends, but we need to get all our things to the station.
We can't miss tomorrow's train. The only one for a month.
Then you'll just have to go without me. I'm staying with the CSDs. We are chased to the spout, and nothing and no pony is gonna move us. No matter what.
We just sold the house, Scoot. I know this is hard to accept, but just...
It's more than hard. It's not fair. You're making me pick between my family and my friends. Oh, Scootaloo, moving away won't stop you three from caring about each other. Why don't you sleep over with Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom tonight? It'll give you a chance to say a real goodbye. But I don't want to say goodbye. You're changing my whole life without even asking how I feel.
Yeah. So, like I said, while this is one of the major criticisms, how both Scootaloo's parents are just completely oblivious to her behavior, and yes, while I will admit it does get annoying at points, in their bit of defense, they weren't around with her to basically, see her grow up and see how she feels, and that they're just dumping this on her. Like I said, and I'm going to keep harping on this because some reviewers still think that this episode's bad because of this one criticism, and that Scootaloo's parents are the worst parents in all of media, when, need I remind you, at the very least, well, yes, they're dumping this on her and basically telling her to move away without her consent or asking her how she feels. At the very least, it's not like they are around and they just straight up ignore her. They're not trying to mold her into her own image. They're not using her for her own personal gain. They're not calling her a failure. They're not turning her into a chimera. Or, God forbid, they're trying to molest her. So, no. Oh, you can take that criticism and shove it where the sun don't shine. So, anyway, Scootaloo is at the train station realizing how hopeless this is, but the rest of the Cutie Mark Crusaders basically go to Aunt Holiday and Aunt Lofty to basically tell them what exactly is going on.
You three inspired me to finish my quilt. See? It's Cutie Mark Crusader themed. We love hearing the stories about all the ponies you've helped. So Lofty decided to celebrate the special job you three do. It's still a work in progress.
It's not your quilt we're sad about, Auntie Lofty. Mom and Dad are back, and they're making me move to Shire Lanka with them.
Seven might have been. They didn't tell you that.
Oh, I think the mail pony delivered your letter to my house.
So basically further proof that Ponyville's mail system is basically all screwed up.
I love my family, but I love being with my friends too. I don't want to have to choose.
Well, then why don't your parents just stay in
I'll be too important. That's it! Is this another potion idea? No! Scootaloo's parents are the only ponies in Equestria that can do what they do, right? Right? Well, so are we! Our cutie marks prove it! Yeah! Our job is to help other ponies find their purpose! And no pony else can do that!
So, this is what I like about this episode, is that essentially, it basically kind of just shows the full growth that the Cutie Mark Crusaders are essentially going through. And yeah, well, I will admit in this episode that, well, here's the thing. The Cutie Mark Crusaders are, well, their ideas in a lot of the later seasons are, well, kind of silly, and it's basically a little annoying to watch. Now, with all that being said, I do like the maturity that this episode tries to bring, and that essentially it does try to teach a very subject matter, and that basically, you know, you are going to have to choose between, you know, your family and your friends and such, and it is a very difficult change for everyone. Now, I will give this episode, however, I will criticize this episode is the fact that basically this episode is basically kind of saying, well, you could still choose between, you know, your friend, you could still choose your friend over your family, but sometimes in situations, it's not that simply cut and dry. Because the fact of the matter is that, well, there are different circumstances, essentially, basically, and every family has to go through it. So there's a big issue here that basically, well, look, kids can't get exactly what they want, and it's really hard for me to kind of explain it because, well, I'm just kind of setting things up because I'm making it for kind of a joke, because here's the thing, like, I'm kind of all distracted tonight, but that's just how I kind of feel about this episode. Yes, this episode, to me, is a lot like Rainbow Falls, though the fandom doesn't really hate this episode all that much. But I like it in a sense that, yes, I am aware of this episode's problems with the plot holes in regards to Scootaloo's parents, and that it does get kind of annoying, and that this episode kind of says, well, kids can complain really hard enough, and if you don't want them mute, the parents will let them, when that's not really the case. However, in the context of the show, it is showing the overall growth of the Cutie Mark Crusaders, and I think I have to give this episode this. So essentially the next day, Aunt Lofty and Aunt Holiday bring Scootaloo's parents for basically a Cutie Mark Crusaders Appreciation Day.
It's Cutie Mark Crusader Appreciation Day, but we couldn't start without all of them here.
Now, this is the thing in regards to the scene. While I will admit it does go a bit over the top with it, I think it kind of serves the point of it. And what I like about this scene is that this entire segment brings in every single pony, not just the ponies in Ponyville, but every single pony that the Cutie Mark Crusaders had helped out over the course of 9 seasons to basically show Scootaloo's parents how much the Cutie Mark Crusaders mean to each other. So I really do like it in that aspect, and like I said, showing the full growth of the Cutie Mark Crusader. And I think that's what this episode has to be given credit for.
That sounds familiar. In honor of all they have done and continue to do for the ponies of this town, I would like to present the Cutie Mark Crusaders with a free-handled key to the city.
Wonderful salute.
Oh, well, I'm not sure you know just how important Scootaloo and her friends are, little brother, but you're about to find out.
The CMCs use their free time to set up a camp to help us blanks find our cutie marks.
Yeah, I'm sure basically, hey, the frickin' little spoiled-ass brat finally stopped being a brat afterwards after he almost pulled the children of the corn from it.
The Cutie Mark Crusaders see the best in every pony, even when that pony can't see it in themselves.
Well, I'll be a three-tailed bandicoot. I had no idea how important Scoot's club was.
Yeah, clearly.
Way more than just a club. The
Exactly. So like I said, while this whole Appreciation Day, I do admit, gets a little bit over the top, it's showing the amount of growth that the Cutie Mark Crusaders have done as a team, and all of the creatures that they have helped out over the course of 9 seasons, and how much their friendship really means to not just each other, but how it means to Ponyville. So I really have to give this episode credit for that.
Whether it's encouraging others to discover their special talents, or inspiring them to do what's in their heart, these 3 fillies offer the town something no other pony can.
So basically, Scootaloo's parents give in and basically say, listen, Scootaloo, we'll take the job, you can stay in Ponyville. And like I said, it's not going to be as simple as in the real world, because unfortunately the reality is when you have to move, you have to move. You don't really have any other options. But in retaining to the context of this episode, I'll accept it for what it is as a bit of a grain of salt.
Oh, sweetie, I'm just sorry we didn't realize it sooner.
It's these lines that I think people are just ignoring this. Like I said, it's not like they're completely oblivious. I'm sorry, I feel like that this is exactly like basically the main attraction all over again, where I'm basically just nitpicking about other reviewers criticizing this episode rather than the episode itself.
Our work is our life's purpose. We could never quit, so there's no way we can ask you to do the same.
Maybe you should have thought of that before you sold the house.
Lofty, don't tease my brother. We already have a solution worked out.
Since the CMCs make Ponyville such a nice place, we've decided to move here.
You can live with us, Scootaloo, if you'd like. That would be amazing!
So it's nice to know that Scootaloo has a support system, and basically the episode ends with Scootaloo's parents basically making her an Indiana Jones pony, and the CMNC celebrate that they're going to stay together, and basically continue with the day, and that was the Last Crusade, and personally, I think the episode is good.
What? You can't be serious!
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, I will admit it. This episode does have its problems. The plot hole of how the whole basically setup of how the Cutie Mark Crusaders can't go on without Scootaloo, even though the show has proven that there are other branches of the Cutie Mark Crusaders, that they couldn't just ask basically Babs or literally anybody else to step in, and the fact that Scootaloo's parents are kind of oblivious to how their daughter feels, and how they're just kind of dumping everything onto her. But I think that was the point of the episode, and believe me, they're not the absolute worst parental figures in animation, given the other list of examples I've listed in children's media, but I'm not going to make that into another diatribe. I really do like the episode. I like the setup. I like how it basically introduces not only Scootaloo's lesbian aunts, but also their parents, that they aren't aware because they're so focused around their job. And like I said, that is a bit annoying to see them not really connect with their daughter that much and how she feels, and they're just kind of dumping it onto her, but I think that's the point of the episode. What I like about this episode is the fact that it highlights how far the Cutie Mark Crusaders go, and how much them helping all other ponies means to Ponyville, as well as the entire land of Equestria and what they have done. I also like the humor a bit, and just seeing the emotional turmoil. While it's not simply cut and dry, I do like what this episode gives. There's just a lot of charm to this episode that I can't really be mad at it. Now, does this episode have its problems? Sure. Can it get annoying at times? Absolutely. But it gave us something that the fandom has been begging for, and the payoff I think is really wholesome, and I think it's for parents to kind of realize that we should probably spend more time with our kids, and kind of know their comfort zone, and to kind of gently break it down why we would have to move and not be completely oblivious to it. So, in my personal opinion, I do think The Last Crusade is a good episode. I wouldn't consider it one of my top favorites, but like I said, the obliviousness can get annoying at points, and the Cutie Mark Crusaders plans is really not that well thought out, but nothing that really overall breaks the episode. I don't think it's a bad episode, and I don't understand why other reviewers think it is. It's not a great episode. I used to think it's amazing, but in retrospective, I don't think it's great. It's not bad by any means. I think that The Last Crusade is a good episode, and I think it deserves a lot more credit than it's given. So, as a whole, I'd say The Last Crusade is about a B for me. It's still a good episode, just not one of my favorites. So yeah, final ranking for The Last Crusade is a B. Alright, and with that, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but we are actually now close to getting to the halfway point of Season 9. So next time, we are going to be getting to the last episode of the first half of Season 9 between Dark and Dawn. I'll see you guys next time.